Namaste and a very good day to everyone. I'm Vimuri Nimigoda from Sri Lanka. Today I have the honor of serving as your host on behalf of the International Association and the Ministry of Education, Uva Province, Sri Lanka. The International Professional Development Program for Educators is a joint educational endeavor by the International Association for Quality Education and the Ministry of Education, Uva Province, Sri Lanka, in collaboration with the Vijayabhumi University. It is my great pleasure to welcome our esteemed speaker for today's session, Dr. Arindram Ghosh, Associate Professor at the Jagdish Sheth School of Management, Vijayabhumi University. Today, he will speak on research methodologies on quality improvement. Dr. Anindram Ghosh, sir, we are truly delighted to have you with us. On behalf of the International Association for Quality Education, the Ministry of Education, Uva Province, Sri Lanka, and all our participants, I warmly welcome you to this session. The floor is now yours, sir.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and I really want to thank the organizing committee for giving me the opportunity to give my presentation today. Is my PPT is visible to you? Can any of you please confirm?
Yes, sir, it's visible, sir.
Okay. So good evening, respected participants. Uh, Welcome to today's lecture on research methodologies for quality improvement. Education is the backbone of any society, right? Now, how to make it more effective, more equitable, and how to attain continuous improvement? The answer lies in research. So, first of all, what is educational research? Educational research is the systematic study of educational process and outcomes. It seeks to answer questions such as how can we improve the students' learning, what teaching methods work best, how do we reduce dropout rates, and many more other relevant questions. The goal is to improve the quality of existing educational system. Now, why should we focus on quality improvement in education? Because education is a continuous age-old process, and but why we need to improve it again continuously? Because if we don't improve the quality without proper research, then maybe it will the resource we are going to invest, maybe that will waste and that will not serve the society properly, right? So quality education, basically we want to uh, provide the quality education to the students. So quality education ensures equity, social progress, and economic development. And as I told already, that is basically the backbone of any society and any nation. Now, generally for any research, we are having three different approach, and that is also true in case of educational research. So three main approach we are having: quantitative. So quantitative basically deals with number and statistical tools and technique, right? So whatever data we can quantify, for that we can go for quantitative research. On the other hand, we are having qualitative research. So that is basically we in qualitative research we basically deals with attribute. Uh, this here the data are not quantifiable, right? And generally, like for any societal research, generally we go for mixed method. That is actually a combination of both quantitative research and qualitative research. Uh, I would request the participant that if you think that any clarification is required, please let me know at any point of time. So quantitative research maybe comparing test score between groups, between two groups or more than groups, right? Qualitative, uh, it could be interview, it could be panel discussion, and mixed that combines both. So quantitative research generally handles the question numerical, I mean, question which deals with uh, number, how many, how much, what is the relationship between different variables, right? So suppose I want to check that, suppose I am providing some extra uh, tuition for a group of students, whether that is viable, is it giving me the expected outcome, that we can check, right, before giving the tuition and after the a special session. Then qualitative research, uh, is it handles questions like why, how. So especially in subcontinent, we have seen that many students who are from the rural background, they sometimes struggle kind of or feel a bit difficulty while handling the online learning, right? So why it is happening, how we can improve the things further, that we can discuss in with qualitative research. Then uh, in general, in a reality, most of this type of research are follows mixed method, which is combination of both qualitative approach and quantitative approach, right? So that is mixed method. Now, so these are the basic categories: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method are the basic categories of research. Now, what type of research we conduct generally in the domain of education? Experimental research, descriptive research, case study, longitudinal research, cross-sectional research, ethnographic, phenomenological, and grounded theory. So I am going to discuss briefly about each of the area. So experimental research, as, as the name is suggesting, it is systematic investigation where the researchers change variables to determine their effect on outcome under controlled condition, right? So generally researcher change one or two parameter and check how it is affecting the outcome, right? Uh, so here one example I have given, one experimental study where one group of students is taught using gamified learning apps. So nowadays, in many schools, they are uh, adopted different gamified learning tools and apps. So whether that is actually changing the performance of the students, so that's the experimental research, right? We are changing the parameter, which is here the teaching method, whether that is going to affect the performance of the students, that we need to check. So that's the experimental research. Descriptive research, here we are not changing any variable. The researcher will not change any variable, but that will describe the entire group, right? They will try to understand that suppose there is a shortcoming, they will try to understand without any changing a variable that why it is happening actually, right? So that actually explain the situation, the current situation. Then case study. So here it's a kind of a benchmarking. It's an in-depth investigation of a group or individual or event over a period of time. Suppose a particular organization is doing good, right? And if we know that how they are doing good, what are the things rightly they have adopted, so that can be documented, and that practices can also need could be uh, could be emulated further. So that is the case study. Longitudinal, that say it is actually a study on a same group of people over a period of time. So uh, we can study the performance of a group at a starting time. Then we can change some parameter. We can incorporate some good practices, new practices, and then we can study their performance again at the end. So it's a research process where we note down their entire journey. We document their entire journey over a long period of time. Cross-sectional research. Here, uh, actually, that there is a concept called cross-sectional data. So when we collect data at a single point of time, unlike that earlier, that longitudinal, that we here we take data over a period of time. In case of cross-sectional research, we take data at a single point of time, but from different groups. We can take data from different schools. We can take data from different uh, uh, sections and try to understand if there is any difference between their performance, why that difference is taking place. That ethnographic, that's a basically qualitative data research that involve observing and interacting with people in their natural environment to understand the cultural practice. So sometimes that the background from the students are coming from, their belief system, their socio-economic condition plays a huge role on their performance. So how their background is playing the role, what is the root causes, that type of study when we, that is basically in-depth uh, qualitative study. So that type of research is known as ethnographic research, right? Then phenomenological research, again, it is a qualitative research that explores individual experience and make meaning of a particular phenomenon. So different situation, different natural climate, uh, different events, global events, may have a huge impact on the performance of a individual or a section of people. So if we find any change, any deviation, it can be positive or also it can be negative. So if we try to find out the impact of that particular event on the performance, then we should adapt that phenomenological research. Then the last one, the grounded theory. It's again a qualitative research that try to find out a new solution, right? So if a researcher uh, want to come out with a new solution process or a new theory to handle a unforeseen event or a, sudden event that didn't happen earlier, then that is kind of grounded theory. So we all know that during the COVID, uh, that was very new for our teaching community, right? No one expected that. So that time, different institution, they adopted different teaching methodology, different pedagogy to handle the challenging situation, right? So that was kind of a grounded theory. Now, while we are for any research, sampling is a very important element because we cannot go and take information and data point from each individual from a population, right? So for that, to conduct any research, it can be qualitative, it can be quantitative, we need to have a good representative sample, right? So there are different sampling method that we adopt to find out a representative sample. And that is actually very important, because if the sample size is not good, or the data we are collecting that is not good, then we may get a very wrong conclusion from the research, right? So there are generally, now I'm going to discuss about the sampling method, different type of sampling method, how we can collect data. So the sampling method can be classified basically under two main categories. Right? One is non-probability sampling and another is probability sampling. So what is non-probability sampling? Non-probability sampling is basically the type of sampling where the elements of a population, different elements are having different probability to get selected, right? Due to different causes, researcher may choose a few sample points over others. Now, that can be classified under four different categories. Convenience sampling. So what is convenience sampling? It is like, it is for own convenience. Researchers are taking data from the sample or selecting a sample size which are inexpensive, convenient, and readily available, right? So here actually researchers are not paying uh, due attention and due effort to collect data. So convenience sampling are generally very biased in nature. What is the judgment sampling? Here, researchers select samples when he want to show some particular outcome. So before even conducting the research, researcher generally mm, get uh, some motive for some reason or others, and they try to find the sample which will ensure his or her belief, right? The third one is quota sampling. Uh, Here, the samples elements are selected based on their percentage of representation. So suppose in a university there are 5,000 students, and 3,000 are boys and 2,000 are girls. So the ratio is 3:2. Now, suppose a researcher want to conduct a research, and for that he want to take feedback from 50 students. Now, in the 50 students, if they take students, boys and girls, pardon, uh, hello, any query? Sorry.
Kamal Gura sir, please unmute. Please mute these disturbances. Please mute the disturbances. Thank you.
Thank you. What I was telling about quota sampling. So as I told that if the ratio of boys and girls is 3:2, now when the
Oh, otherwise,
researcher
can you give the host to the our moderator? Then she will handle it. She will make you co-host. Then you can continue. Then she will control the audience. Vimuri.
Yes, sir. I reclaimed it, sir. Okay, sir.
Vimuri will handle. Okay.
All right.
is it okay? Should I continue?
Of course, sir. Extremely sorry.
No, not a issue. I hope that I'm audible to you, right? To all of you.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yes. So as I told, suppose that ratio of boys and girls is 3:2. Now I am going to make a sample of size 50. So if I take the representatives in the sample as 3:2, 30 boys and 20 girls, then that will be an example of quota sampling. Snowball sampling, what is that? In snowball sampling, we generally first we approach a known sample size, and we take feedback from them, and then we take references for further processing, and it continue further. So first, suppose I know few people beforehand, 10 people, and I'm taking their feedback, how to improve the educational system, what is their idea, and I can also take reference from them, maybe other 10, 15 people, and if I contact with them, and if it continues like that, then that's an example of a snowball sampling. Now, probability sampling. So, in probability sampling, mathematically, all the elements in a population is having equal chance to get selected in the sample. Now, these are 4 different kind of probability sampling. Random sampling. The probability sampling is also known as random sampling. So, this random sampling can be classified under 4 categories: simple random, stratified, systematic, and cluster. So simple random, basically, it is just, that the name is suggesting that if you take anything, any elements, without any mathematical background or without any intention, just by chance, that is simple random sampling, right? So that is actually random in nature, quote unquote. Now, what is stratified sampling? In a stratified sampling, we divide the entire population in different groups, right? Now, when we are classifying the group, these group are basically heterogeneous in nature, right? These groups are heterogeneous in nature. So suppose in international schools, students from different countries, they attend the school. Now, first, if I make some strata based on their country of origin, and after that, if we select some member from each of the group or each of the strata, then that is called stratified random sampling. So each of the group is having different need. Maybe they are having different problems. Now, after dividing the group in different strata, if I take sample 1 or 2 students from each of the group, then that is known as stratified random sampling. Now, systematic sampling, what is that? In systematic sampling, we first, I'm just explaining with that picture. Suppose we are having a group of 40. Now, randomly, I am taking the 4th element as my sample member. And I have decided that in the group, I will take a sample of 4 elements, right? Suppose in the entire group, my population size is 40. So in the entire group, we are having 40 people. And I have decided that I will take only 4 people from here as my sample. So there is a concept called sampling interval. What is sampling interval? That we calculate that K, it is denoting the sampling interval, that is equal to capital N, that is the total population size divided by the sample size. So 40 by 4 here, 10. So what we will do now? So first of all, I have taken a element randomly, like the fourth one. Then I will take the second node, 4 plus 10, 14. 14 plus 10, 24, like that. So we'll keep on increasing the sampling element based on the sampling interval. Now the last one of the probability sampling is called cluster sampling. What is cluster sampling? So as I told, we have discussed as stratified random sampling, where we divided the sample based on different categories. And the strata are heterogeneous in nature, right? Now, unlike stratified, in cluster sampling, we also divide the total population in different category, different group, but we try to make the group in such a way that each of the group represent the entire population, right? So the clusters are homogeneous in nature. So suppose, as I told, that if we just consider a international schools and students from different countries have come. So in case of cluster sampling, maybe we'll group together maybe 10 students in per group, and 10 students are coming from 10 different countries. So in a way, each of the group is representing the entire population, right? Now, these are the procedure that I have discussed as of now to collect data. So sampling is actually finding out the right representative for my research from whom I can take the data for further analysis. Now, any research, the backbone of any research is data. Without data, it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. Without data, we cannot proceed further. Now, data can be classified in different way, in different category, right? First of all, you have to understand that data can be classified in different way. So based on different characteristic of data. So based on the source, we can classify data under two main category: primary data and secondary data. What is primary data? When researchers are collecting data from the source, from the respondents directly, then that type of data are known as primary data. So when we are taking some interview, or we are taking some, we are taking data from different observation, right? And we are actually writing down the data, and then we do some statistical experiment. That is primary data. So we are taking the data from the source, from the respondents directly. Now, what is secondary data? Just opposite to primary data, obviously. When we take data from already available sources, maybe internet, magazine, journal, whatever, right? And we are just build up on that. We can conduct our own research from the available data. That is called secondary data, right? So secondary data is already available. For that, we no need to go for the sampling and that method we discussed earlier. Based on that continuity of data, data can be classified again under two categories: continuous data. Continuous data can be integer, it can be fractional, right? Like rainfall, it can be fractional, it can be integer, right? Maybe the test score, if you give the fractional marks like 99.5 or 89.85, so that is a kind of continuous data. Discrete data basically, it can take only a specific, generally the integer values only. So the number of students, number of classroom, all those things are example of discrete data. Now, based on the collection period of data, it can be classified again under three categories: time series data. When we are collecting data for a from a particular event over a period of time, right? So suppose I want to check the performance of the students over a period of time, how he is evolving when he is going through different teaching methods. That is a time series data. We are taking data from a particular respondent over a period of time. Cross-sectional data, just opposite to time series data. Here we take information, we take data at a particular point of time, right? So earlier it was over the period of time. Here we are collecting data at a particular point of time, but from different respondents. It could be individual people or it could be different respondent group. And if we combine this both time series and cross-sectional, then that is known as panel data, right? So here in panel data, we basically take data over a period of time and from different respondent groups. So if I consider the time period, basically data can be classified under two categories: time series and cross-sectional, and panel data is kind of combination of both. Now, as I told, that secondary data is already available. For that, I mean, we can just take data from book, journal, or even nowadays, I mean, with the advancement of net, a lot of data available. So for that, it is quite easy. Now, how we can take, what are the tools and technique we use to get the primary data? Few of them I have discussed here. So the first one and very common, that is questionnaire, right? Questionnaire basically, it can be open-ended, it can be closed-ended, but generally we go to the respondent with a fixed, with some already prepared question, right? So generally, mostly we'll find the questionnaire methods are closed-ended in nature. On the interview, on the other hand, we are having another process, interview, and that is kind of more unstructured and open-ended, right? So in interview, based on the responses from the respondents, we can mold our question. We can take that flow, right? So that is questionnaire and interview. Then observation, when researcher just observe the respondents over a period of time, their behavior, their behavioral change, their change in their performance, but sometimes without even informing the respondents, right? They just check the change, and if anything is significant, they note it down, right? And they generally don't manipulate any variable. Another fourth one is experiment, where we discussed earlier, the researcher change one or two variable purposefully and then check what is the impact, uh, on that variable on the respondents, right? So that is the fourth one, experiment. Then focus group basically where a group of people who are having basically mastery over that particular topic, they come together, they discuss among themselves, and generally in that focus group, researcher form different group separately without informing each other. They form different group and take feedback from each of the group. And sometimes they, after collecting the information from each of the group, they inform other group, and I mean that they the formation of group, uh, I mean different formation can take place over the period of time. And uh, basically that is actually they try to get a expert opinion from a particular uh, uh, for a particular uh, incident or for particular case, particular research. Then documents and records, that is basically when you are analyzing your existing record, your existing document, right? So it can be also primary, it can be also secondary. You are having a set of data, maybe prepared for a different purpose, but when you are doing the research, then you are going back and checking that data, try to understand what is the change is happening and why, if there is a particular change, a particular incident happened, why it happened. If you want to get that idea from the documented data set and record, that is the sixth one. Now, obviously, ethics is important in any kind of research, but obviously that is much more important probably when we are talking about the educational research, because here the respondents are students at most of the time, right? So we need to be very sensitive. Uh, First of all, we should take the consent from students, from their parents. Then we should maintain the confidentiality, and we should not use the data for any purpose or any cause which may harm the students. Now, so we have discussed the sampling, that from where we should take the data. We have discussed the different type of data. Now, after collection of data, what type of statistical tool and technique we generally use? So, correlation, regression, that correlation actually basically shows the relationship between two variables, the dependent variables and independent variables. Suppose I want to check that how the marks obtained by students are varying with increasing uh, tuition, right? Increasing time of tuition. So that we can check with correlation. Regression, if you want to predict a dependent variable, then regression. ANOVA is generally used to compare more than two sample. Then we are having two sample test. And then also for categorical variable, categorical data, we are having chi-square. So these are the very common statistical method we generally adopt for further analysis of data and get some conclusion. So what are the recent trends in that area, in the domain of educational research? We will find a lot of collaborative research is happening. Collaboration is taking place among different educational institutions, uh, different universities, even government level collaborations are happening. Then policy oriented research. So if the government have adopted a new policy, then uh, what is the outcome of that policy? Or if they want to form a new policy, then what are, and if they want to take data and information, if you want to collect data to form a policy, then that is called policy oriented research. So a lot of government level policy, I mean government across the world are taking different policy. They're coming up with new policy for betterment of the students to adapt with the changing scenario, right? So that is policy oriented research is happening. Then linking research to practice. So if we take some decision based on a research, then we should convey the message to every stakeholder. So a teacher who is going to classroom every day, he should also know that what kind of data I should collect, right? And what should be my approach. Then global trends that, as I told, that global level, different universities and educational institutions, schools are collaborating, right, for the betterment. So uh, the point I've just discussed right now is given discussed here further. Now, what are the impact on quality? Uh, what are the benefit we are getting or we may get from the research? Obviously, that will, that should enhance the teaching quality, that should support students. The research help us to understand the lacunas in the teaching procedure, or if there are any issues from the student's point of view, then that should be handled. Then we should reform the guideline and policy. So what are the future trend? As all of you know that all AI tutors are evolving. Uh, like then adaptive learning, what is that? That is a further, in-depth application of AI tutor. In adaptive learning, the teaching pedagogy materials are designed in such a way that it can handle each of the student individually. So that is highly customized. And then cross-border studies are happening, right? Now, as of now, I have discussed a lot of, I mean, the research methodologies, how the research methodologies can help and improve the teaching pedagogy and overall the educational system. Now, there are few more tools I just want to, just want to touch upon that. What are the different other quality improvement tools beside research? What are the different tools, quality control tools, generally the educators they adopt for upliftment of the quality? The first, benchmarking, cause effect diagram, PDCA or PDSA cycle, and TQM. So I will just want to explain within one or two lines. So what is benchmarking? Benchmarking when we try to adapt to the best practices in the industry. So some school or some university is doing well, or as a whole, if a country is doing well in its education system, then we should learn that what actually they are doing well. I mean, what are the practices they have adopted, what are the good things they have adopted, and if we try to uh, replicate those practices in my system, then that is benchmark, right? So that is basically a standardization. Then cause effect diagram. So it's a very simple quality control tool. In cause effect diagram, we first of all find a problem and then try to find out the probable causes. So it looks like a fishbone if we look at the diagram. So sometimes it is known as a fishbone diagram. So suppose in a educational environment, if we find that a particular group of students are not uh, learning, right, in comparison to their peer group. So that is the problem. Now, what could be the uh, possible causes? It could be anything. Maybe they are not attentive. It is on one possibility. Maybe they don't have that financial infrastructure or infrastructure overall. So that may also hamper their journey. It can be issue related to communication. So each of the cause need to be closely studied, and then we should give remedy for that. Now, PDCA cycle is it is also known as PDSA cycle. What is that? It tells that the quality improvement is not a one-time go. It is not a one-time journey. It should evolve over the period of time. So if you have come out with a particular solution, right? When you're planning, you have, so first of all, need to understand the problem. You need to framework, some activities, that is planning phase. Two, that can actually help, that can actually improve the uh, education system. So you should implement that. Now you should check further that is it is it all right? Is it going as per my expectation? If yes, then you should continue with that. And if it fails, then you should find what are the lacunas, why you are failing. So that is one cycle. Now, if that cycle is complete, then you should go further and plan for future. And then the another cycle will start. So that is a continuous cyclic process, right? The last one is TQM, total quality management. So basically TQM as a kind of philosophy which tells that quality improvement is not uh, a responsibility for a of a person or of a particular uh, team or a particular group. Whoever is associated with the organization, with the process, all stakeholders should contribute, and whatever they are doing, maybe they are not directly associated with that delivery process. I mean, in service sector, that here maybe, if I take the example of educational system, quality education, delivering quality education is not only depending on the teacher. So all the stakeholder, all the employees should try to improve his delivery, right? Should try to improve his work. If they can do it, then ultimately the ultimate outcome will be always improved. Will be improved, right? So that's the basically philosophy. Okay, so that's what we discussed. That good research lead to good practice, and good practice ultimately builds better future, better nation, right? And that's why research methodologies are always very essential for to improve the educational system, to understand it, to to understand it in a better way, and to reshape it for future. So that's all from my side. Any query we can discuss further.
Thank you, Arindam sir, for teaching us something new. And it was a lot of information, but it was so clear the way you explained it, and the different methods that we can do. So sometimes we might not be aware of all of these things before. Some are really new to us. So thank you so much. We have learned a lot from you, and we would like to have more lectures from you as well.
Thank you to the organizing committee, and thank you to all the participants for attending. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.